Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm going to talk today, I'm going to actually present some results of statistical analysis, a small statistical analysis, that was aim was to assess whether the pattern of market concentration and vertical integration that are observed in the global cocoa chain have changed, have created an imbalance of market power among the cocoa stakeholders. My presentation is going to be based in essentially 4 parts. In the first 2 parts, I'm going to give you a lot of statistics. The first part, this has been already said. I'm going to show how much economic value is added through cocoa processing around the world. Then, in the second part, I'm going to provide just some descriptive statistics on the level of concentration that we observe at the chocolate manufacturing sector, the grinding and the trading sector, and then I'm going to provide an estimate of the degree of asymmetry in the transmission of price along the UK and US chain. I use these 2 supply chains simply because those were the only data that I could find. The idea here is very simple. If we detect at the statistical level an asymmetric distribution of the price change, this is an indication that there is an imbalance of market power. And then I will just briefly make some comment on this finding. So let's start with the value added by the global cocoa chain. Here in this slide, you can see the value of the world retail value of chocolate confectionery from basically 2001-2002 until 2013-14. Those are all in constant 2013-14 in a billion of US dollar. This orange line is the value on the international market, the average value of the international market of the cocoa production. Basically, if we compare vis-a-vis these 2 values, this is the economic value that is added by the global cocoa supply chain to its major ingredient, which is cocoa beans. Now, if you look here to the last year, and the value that is created by the global cocoa supply chain is just over 100 billion of US dollar. Here, just to give an idea of the distribution of the value across the value segment in the global supply chain, you can see the temporal evolution of the price of cocoa bean, cocoa import, a chocolate confectionery product, all expressed in cocoa bean equivalent. So you can see how, well, we cannot detect the pattern, but in any case, we see that there is a huge markup that is added by the value segment in the global chain. Now, I will move to describe some statistics on the level of concentration on the global cocoa chain. Well, this supply chain in reality is upside down, but I adjusted for convenience. I just put it upside down. So let's look first to the statistics on the market concentration on the chocolate confectionery sector. Here, sorry, it's not clicking. Can we go back? Yes, thank you. This is the estimated world retail share of the chocolate manufacturer in 2015. The whole point is that 4 major brands basically are having nearly 50% of the world market. Can you go back, please? if you look to the grinding, this is an estimate of the grinding capacity in West and Central Africa. And here we can see that 4 countries in this region of the world, which by the way supply 71% of the world cocoa supply, are basically having a 60% of the grinding capacity. Cocoa trading, please. If we look at the major cocoa trade house again in West and Central Africa, in 2012, the market share of this company was 40%. If you have noticed, the company that were involved, at least in West Central Africa, the company that were involved in cocoa grinding and cocoa trading were basically the same. Now, if we aggregate and normalize their market share, so in other words, we consider as a sole business unit the operation of processing and grinding, these 4 companies are basically controlling 50% of the market share. This is to show that basically in the global cocoa supply chain, the entire market power is dominated by this network of relationship from what I call the brand name chocolate manufacturer company and the merchant contractor, which basically are vertically integrated enterprise which operate both at the trading and the grinding level. The brand name chocolate manufacturer company are responsible for product innovation, product definition, and their marketing. And the merchant contractor are supplying customized, semi-finished and finished product. One point is that the relationship between the transaction that occur between these 2 entities is not just a casual business transaction. They are related by long-term contractual agreement. Also because you have to consider that at this stage of the chain, there is because of the huge volume that they are achieving, this will they are processing a huge volume to achieve economy of scale, but at the same time, so they need to have a guaranteed output and a guaranteed customer. Otherwise, all these investment they are going to increase. They are going to act as a multiplier for their risk exposure. So this is the reason why they need to have this long-term contractual arrangement. Now, it's true that market concentration does not lead necessarily to some economic efficiency. However, the structure of the global cocoa chain has raised concern. Well, to start, we see that there is the potential for the exercise of oligopolistic and monopolistic power in the cocoa processing. And then we have high barrier to entry in both the chocolate manufacturing sector and what I call merchant contractor. Now, in an industry characterized by high barrier to entry, it creates an environment that is conducive to collusion behavior as well as to other uncompetitive practice. So the question is, do all cocoa stakeholders share the same bargaining power? If cocoa stakeholders they share the same bargaining power, then we would observe that price shock along the supply chain would be transmitted symmetrically. So this is all the idea of this small statistical analysis. Basically, well, don't get lost here. Basically, what I'm trying to, I'm sorry, I don't know how to present it, so just follow. So basically, what we are trying to model is the price link between the upstream sector and the downstream sector. And we are trying to explain the variation of the price variation in the upstream sector in terms of the variation that happened in the downstream sector. However, I will break down the positive price variation and the negative price variation. Why? Because I wanted to test whether these coefficients are statistically the same. Because if they are statistically the same, then there is a symmetric price transmission. If they are not, then it's an indication of an asymmetric price transmission. Now let's look to the cocoa supply chain, the UK cocoa supply chain. So I gathered some price index, a consumer's price index for the confectionery sector. Unfortunately, they do not have a consumer price index exclusively for chocolate, so it's encompassing all the confectionery sector. I was able to get a producer price index for chocolate and food preparation containing cocoa. Basically, this is, you can imagine that this is the price that the retailer is paying to a chocolate manufacturer when he's buying basically chocolate confectionery to put on the shelf space. And then as a proxy for the cocoa farm gate, I used our ICCO nominal price, expressed in pound per ton, and then I deflated by basically the UK consumer price index for all the items. Now, if we look what is the evolution, okay, R stands for retailer, W for wholesale, F for farmer, just to indicate the international price for cocoa. On the right side, there is the scale for the real price of cocoa, and here there is the scale for the index. The index started is 100 in January 2005, so that's why here the series start in, well, this is because those are the data available, January 28 monthly up to July 2015. So this is the evolution of this consumer price index, a proxy for the cost of chocolate confectioneries at the wholesale level and the ICCO price. Well, we can already see that there is an increase in margin here. Well, we cannot talk about margin because those are price index in any case. So now what I've done, so I estimated the link between the price link between the international price and the chocolate manufacturer. So here I just registered the variation of the price on the international market and the price variation on the wholesale levels. So my plan is to explain the variation of the wholesale price as a function of the positive change that occur at the international and level. So I use the lag of 4 months simply to account that by the time the cocoa is harvested, I thought that in 4 months will be already shipped and manufactured. And in both cases, these are the estimate that I got. Those are the standard error. If you are familiar with statistics, well, with this level, you get a t-student, which is going to tell you that those are not statistically different from zero. This is just simply tell you that the wholesale price of chocolate manufactured in UK does not respond at all whatsoever to any change in the international price of cocoa beans. The equation here instead is modeling the price change. Actually, it's trying to explain the variation of the consumer price index for confectionery in terms of the variation of the price at the wholesale level of chocolate confectionery. So interestingly, we see that positive price change at the wholesale level are transmitted to retail level. This is significant at 10%. The coefficient can be sort of interpreted as an elasticity, even though it's not quite an elasticity because those data have been all normalized to 100 at the beginning of the year. But we can say roughly that 10% increase in the wholesale price of chocolate confectionery is going to increase the retail price by 3%. The negative price change are statistically insignificant. What does it mean? It means that every time the chocolate, the wholesale price of the chocolate manufacturer goes down, the retail price does not register at all this change. Basically, it's only catching up the price increase at the wholesale level. Now, I will show the result for for the US cocoa supply chain. For the case of the US, I could not find a consumer price index for confectionery, neither for chocolate confectionery product. However, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics has quite interesting producer's price index for the chocolate manufacturer. I just used these two because I thought they were quite interesting. This one, well, which basically this is his name, but is going to basically is collecting this is the price at the wholesale, is a proxy of the price at the wholesale level of the confectionery manufacturing that is made from couverture. This order, on the other hand, is a producer's price index for general chocolate type confectionery product. Then again, I use ICCO price as a proxy for the international price, and then I've used an US CPI consumer price index to deflate the price. This is the evolution. So the type, okay, the first series, the one that was on the top, which is basically the producer's price index for chocolate confection for couverture, is running only from January 2001, and I guess I believe July 2011. Those are monthly observation, and then from July 25 kicks this other price index. Again, well, this is the. Here we have the axis for the index, and this is we have the real price for cocoa based on the international market. So for the price equation, capturing the price shock at the farm level, how they are transmitted to the manufacturer level, I have that the positive price change are full transmitted. And those are, this is significant at 1%, which is quite high. Again, this we can interpret as an elasticity. This says that a 10% increase is going to increase in cocoa beans, is going to increase the wholesale price by 0.6%. On the other hand, any price decline that occur on the farm gate, any price decline occurring to the international market are not transmitted at all. The standard error is by far higher than is like two order of magnitude bigger of the coefficient. So this is statistically equal to 0. So this was for the chocolate confection from couverture. If we look the other price index, which is a producer's price index for a completely different type of typology of product, we got about more or less the same result, the same magnitude. The confidence level is a bit lower. This is 95%, 5% of confidence level. And this is again non-statistical significant. So what I would like to, I would like to conclude only with 3 points. The first is that there is an asymmetric distribution on the bargaining power in the global cocoa chain, simply because the price increase are transferred in the upstream of the cocoa supply chain. On the other hand, all the gain that possibly the consumer would capture are not transferred at all. So we may argue that are kept as a value, as an extra profit within the global chain rather than be distributed. Second, there is an issue about merge of large corporation outside the boundary of a nation, because all these we do not have yet a legal framework to deal with the multinational level. So there is still an ongoing discussion at the WTO. It's also true that it's difficult for developing countries to strike a balance between the policy need to avoid market power on one end, and on the other end to curb foreign direct investment, which they really need. And definitely there is a need to provide, to act in order to provide some form of countervailing power to the primary producer. And with this, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you.